一些了解就好。
那我这边
有听到吗？喂，没有。
我有听到，
对，但我有说。Hello。 这样子呢？好，可以。
Hello. Hello.
有声音了。
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Because we tried many times, so why we cannot hear from you? And because this morning we have one special guest from Africa, and she is still on the way. I think the time is already, and we just start our program. It's okay, Commissioner Zhang, 局长。
OK， 没问题。
好，还有一股。
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, great. Now I think we just started, and also waiting for Gums Wanda. I think she will be here. Hello everyone. Greetings from Taipei, Taiwan. I'm Ping Li, the president of the Alliance for Women's Rights and Sustainable Development. On behalf of the Alliance, I'm very delighted to welcome you all to join this event. First, I take the privilege to introduce the host organization AWRSD, Alliance for Women's Rights and Sustainable Development, which is a non-governmental women's organization. The goal of the Alliance is to set up an exchanging and cooperation platform for the women's rights and sustainable development. The platform will enable us to promote relevant research, practice, and advocacy in order to reach gender equality and global sustainable development. Today, it's our honor to have lots of the governmental officers and the advocate to join us. And for this session, empowering middle-aged and older women to enter the re-employment market. Okay. Before the panelists speak, I would like to say some meaning, and talk about the thing. Social welfare or employment authorities in Taiwan define middle-aged and older women as women between the age of 46 to 64. In Taiwan, both the total population and the female population show that the proportion of middle-aged and older women is relatively high, which is the group we must pay attention to. On the way to employment, middle-aged and older women have the following phenomenon. The first phenomenon is the employment of middle-aged and older women is relatively low due to factors such as women getting married, having children, and taking care of their families, and their manpower has not been fully utilized. The second phenomenon is that middle-aged and older women who are still in the workplace experience age discrimination in the workplace because they are getting older and their physical conditions are not as good as before. The third is if middle-aged and elderly women take care of housework and family members, they will depend on their family members financially. If their family members cannot provide financial support or suffer accident, middle-aged and older women will be economically impoverished. So, to the fourth phenomenon, times have changed, and more new technologies are produced and used. Before older women return to the workplace, they need to have new technologies to meet the needs of the workplace. And later, I think the advocates will speak about this as well. The fifth, the main source of monthly living expenses of elderly women in divorce is themselves. If they lose their jobs, they will be in economic crisis. Therefore, how we can empower such an important female population group that needs to be helped so that they can get support and assistance from government sectors, NGOs, and enterprises while their physical and psychological condition are not as good as before, especially to women who are more vulnerable, such as divorced, widowed, and other women who are solely responsible for the family and need to take care of their families. It can help them to have employability to enter the job market and then to achieve economic independence. Now, in this moment, we are very pleased to invite governmental officers and women's rights and movements advocates to join us. They will share their experience with all of us, how to help and support the middle-aged and older women to enter the manpower market. The first speaker is Dr. Zhang Jinli. Dr. Zhang Jinli, Commissioner Zhang is the Social Welfare Department of New Taipei City officer, and she is also the Associate Professor of Taipei Police College, Department of Criminal Investigation. She is specializing in gender equality, gender violence prevention, and social welfare. Dr. Zhang, she was the member of the Gender Equality Committee, Office of the President and the Executive Yuan. And she was also the Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Prevention Committee member of Interior Ministry. And today, this morning, she will deliver the theme, New Life, New Beginning, New Taipei City Middle-Aged and Elderly Women Empowerment Program. Now the floor is yours, Dr. Zhang.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. My name is Jinli Zhang. I'm the Commissioner of the Social Welfare Department of New Taipei City Government. Today, it is my great pleasure to take part in this meaningful event and talk about the topic, New Life, New Beginning, New Taipei City Middle-Aged and Elderly Women Empowerment Program. This is the outline of my presentation for your reference. In my talk, I covered the background of the programs, problems we've identified, program objectives, strategies we've adopted, all the way to future directions. Here is the demographic information of New Taipei City, which has the largest population in Taiwan with more than 4 million residents. Women account for 51.2% of the population at 2.06 million, among which middle to old age women from 45 to 64 years old reach 664 and 698 people. This group of women have also been affected by changes in family and social structures, including increasing educational access for women, which has been driving labor force participation as well. Meanwhile, the completion of their familial duties has also led some women to eagerly want to return to the workplace. The labor participation rate for middle to old-aged women in the cities is 49.9%, which is far lower than the 84.5% for women aged between 25 to 44 years old. We see a 34.6 percentage point difference there. In contrast, men in their middle to senior years have a higher labor participation rate at 75% than their female counterparts. However, the average life expectancy for women in the city is higher at 84.69 years old, which is more than 6 years longer than men's. At the same time, middle to old age women are also facing some challenges in different fronts, such as losing competitiveness and economic independence because they are about to retire or are already jobless. For disadvantaged middle to old age women with disability, it is even more difficult to maintain basic living, which causes challenges in psychological, environmental, and physical dimensions. In particular, women in their middle to senior years face a lot of role conflicts and may not be well supported. For example, they are often influenced by traditional gender stereotypes or gender-based division of labor. So it is easy for them to draw lines for themselves, thinking that they cannot fulfill certain roles or functions, which I think is not necessarily the case. In light of the challenges that we have identified, the Social Welfare Department aims to achieve 4 major goals with our programs: ensuring basic living, offering empowerment opportunities, giving employment support, and providing various forms of companionship. To ensure self-sufficiency, we provide all kinds of allowances, benefits, and support for emergency and medical purposes. We know that the government's resources can sometimes be very limited. So, New Taipei City is also doing its best to leverage the resources of the private sector, including those from enterprises, temples, religious organizations, and associations. With their dedication and charitable donation, we hope to strengthen various welfare services for women to stabilize their basic livelihood and protect their economic security. In terms of strategy 2, empowerment, we focus on enhancing women's self-worth by fostering gender identity. For example, we are building gender-friendly communities locally because all welfare work needs to be embodied in the community. After all, the community is where people live. But how do we promote gender-friendly communities? We can establish programs to train family ambassadors against the domestic violence. And we hope that these ambassadors can visit different communities and organizations to engage in advocacy. We also encourage women to understand the importance of the division of household chores between women and men. Women can participate in the activities of men's organization to promote the division of the household chores between women and men, which is the best way to foster family friendliness and respect for women. We also encourage many men to share how they divide household chores with their significant others and the fact that child rearing is not a duty exclusive to women, and this approach has proven to be very influential. At the same time, numerous statistics in Taiwan have also shown that when a man in a family is willing to share household chores and take child-rearing responsibilities, the future development of their children will be better. So, in promoting gender-friendly communities, we give community members the ability to take the initiative, raise public awareness, and make the impact felt by others. Of course, the government also subsidizes gender-friendly communities to hold relevant activities. We also facilitate various community exchanges, which are very important for us to enable gender-friendly communities at the local level. In addition to building many gender-friendly communities, we have also trained the women's club navigators in the community to enhance women's gender awareness and empowerment. We also work with local women's organizations to train female tour guides. We hope that local tours can be guided from women's perspectives by incorporating local customs, cultures, and the human touch. Well, in Taiwan, tour guides have traditionally been served by men, but seldom by women. So we now provide tour guide trainings to women in areas such as Pingxi and Qingtong. This area used to be a coal mining area, but after the coal industry was gone, it's become a tourist destination. However, this tourist area used to be viewed from the male perspective, but rarely from the female perspective. The public has always been told how hard male miners worked. In fact, we found that women also work as miners in this area, and that they had to bring their children into the mine as they dug coal. They also had to take care of the elderly and the children at home, which was also very hard work indeed. But their dedication was not being fully recognized. Therefore, by training local female tour guides to introduce tourist spots from purely women's perspectives, we hope to highlight women's tremendous contribution to society and economic development. This project has indeed drawn a lot of visitors who show a great deal of interest in this neglected part of the history. And this trained female only can earn extra income with their roles, but also become more confident in the process. I think that this is very
Sorry, we cannot hear you, Commissioner Zhang.
okay. I'll start again.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll start again and continue, okay?
Yes, please.
I think that this is a very important strategy for us as we move towards gender equality and the advancement of women. Thirdly, we also empower women to build professional skills to support atypical employment. For example, we developed a variety of empowerment courses for female plumbers and electricians, mobile instructors, and the resident care service personnel. In so doing, we hope to break down gender-based occupational stereotypes, encourage women to try out different jobs options, and support atypical employment. In Taiwan, plumbers and electricians have traditionally been male-dominated occupations. So now we encourage women to challenge themselves and push the envelope. Even if they don't become plumbers or electricians, After completing the training, they also can fix plumbing and electricity issues at home themselves in the future. What's more, we also train mobile instructors in different service stations in the community. With the aging society, we know that it is important to slow down the elderly's dementia and the disability progression. So we need to enhance the elderly's muscular endurance so that they can stay physically strong. This is why we train many female mobile instructors who can stand on the stage to lead leaders to stretch their arms and legs and do some basic muscle training. When standing on the stage, these women become more confident and can also enjoy an additional source of income from atypical employment opportunities. We also train female resident care service personnel in different communities to take care of the elderly and the children. Sometimes middle to old aged women cannot leave their homes because they have to take care of the family. So we encourage them to take the elderly and the children to community service stations where they can also take care of their other elderly people and children and earn income from such atypical employment at the same time. As another way to empower women, we also offering savings plans and incentives to encourage asset accumulation for this group of women. For example, if they save NT 5,000 per month after being employed, we will provide a government match of NT 5,000. In total, if they can save NT 60,000 a year, we will give them another 60,000, so they will have NT 120,000 of savings in a year. Through this 3-year plan, women can gradually build up their savings and tap into their funds too. For example, start up a small business. This is also an important program to support women's self-sufficiency and active participation in life. Now, to support employment, we also introduce welfare to work programs by providing short-term employment as an alternative form of relief. In the past, families or women who lived below the poverty line could only receive regular monthly allowances from the government. Now, we encourage them to take on extra jobs in addition to living on allowances. They can build up professional competency at work, which in turn will land them better jobs with a higher pay in the future. With such welfare to work programs, we hope to reduce women's reliance on allowances, ensure dignity and self-recognition, and stimulate their self-worth. We also stress the combination of training and practice as another way to support employment. For example, we offer courses to train female caregivers, child care providers, and institutional care workers to ensure employment. This means that if women are willing to take the training courses and perform well in the training, we can guarantee employment opportunities for them to enhance their professional skills and confidence. As you can see on the slide, during the 3 years from 2019 to 2021, we have trained more than 1,000 women in this program that focuses on the combination of training and practice. We also see an ongoing increase in the number of child care providers. Last but not least, companionship is also a key pillar in our programs for women in challenging institutions, including victims of domestic violence or homeless women. It is even more difficult for them to find a job. So we establish a system where social workers can discuss with them physical and psychological challenges or difficulties related to life or finding a job. With our social workers accompanying these women to discuss critical challenges in their lives, we hope that this program will help disadvantaged women to stay longer in the workplace and ensure stable employment. We also introduce a program to keep middle to old-aged women in the workplace. For example, we have established a workplace continuity center for the middle-aged to provide complete career support. In addition, we also work with family-friendly enterprises to help women stay in the workplace and ensure their economic security. For example, if they have some old and young family members to take care of, we can help refer them to an appropriate daycare center in the community or some temporary care facilities, so they do not necessarily have to leave the workplace and may be able to find alternative caregivers. We do provide a lot of information in this area so that they can stay in the workplace during their middle and senior years, because this is actually the stage of life when they're already very mature physically and in terms of work experience. It would be such a great pity if they had no choice but had to leave the workplace because of caretaking duties. To conclude, going forward, we will continue to encourage middle to old-aged women to break the gender-based division of labor and gender stereotypes. We will also encourage them to actively participate in society with government support. At the same time, we will offer diverse empowerment programs to help women cultivate professional skills, develop their potential, foster economic independence and security, and enhance self-worth. With that, I conclude my presentation, and I look forward to your feedback. On behalf of the Social Welfare Department of New Taipei City Government, I would like to wish you all great health and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Zhang, for your wonderful and beautiful presentation. And Commissioner Zhang, she spoke how to support the middle-aged and the senior women in New Taipei City. And she also make some strategy, try to help the women to empower women in their middle to senior years to become competitive in the workplace. The Social Welfare Department of New Taipei City Government leverages the resources and the capacity of the public and the private sector to ensure women's economic security through the following strategies. I think the strategies they are very smart. The first one is ensuring basic living in increased personal security. The second strategy is developing empowerment and training courses for women to gain job skills. And the third one is supporting employment by offering welfare to work programs. And we learned lots of the different programs for women, very creative program. And then the fourth is companionship with the middle-aged women in the workplace. And this triangle, empowerment, support, and companionship, this is a very strong direction for the future. Thank you, Commissioner Zhang, Dr. Zhang. And also, I really appreciate for your support, then that all the people can have the interpreter in Chinese and English. Then people can understand what we are talking, and easy to communicate internationally. Thank you very much. And then next one, I would like to introduce Dr. Narazai Gumsavanda. Narazai, you are on the line?
Yes, yes, I am, Ms.
Good.
Bingley.
Good. And first of all, may I introduce you to all of our participants?
Thank you.
Dr. Narazai Gumsavanda is the founder and the chief executive of Rosario Memorial Trust, the organization she founded in memory of her late mother, based in Murewa, Zimbabwe. It's a far place, huh? From Taiwan. Dr. Gumsavanda is the Africa Union Goodwill Ambassador on ending child marriages since 2014. A Zimbabwean national, she is a trained human rights lawyer with extensive experience of work with girls and young women, as well as in conflict resolution and mediation. For almost 30 years, she has worked on issues of women and children's human rights, especially violence against women, health, and HIV and AIDS. She has extensive work experience at the local, regional, and international level. She served as World Young Women's Christian Association General Secretary for almost 10 years, responsible for 120 countries and reaching 25 million women and girls. She has extensive work with the UN, where she was for a decade with the UNICEF and UNIFEM. She served as a member of the UN Commission on Accountability for Women and Children's Health, and was a member of the WHO Director General Advisory Group on Ebola. She also served as a member of the UN Civil Society Advisor Group on Women, Peace, and Security. She served on many boards of the civil society organizations such as the Zimbabwe Women Lawyers Association, Save the Children UK, including as chair of Action International and Civics. Narazai is also a member of the external advisory group to the managing director of the IMF. Narazai is a member of the setting committee for the Africa Women Leaders Network, as well as the Gender is My Agenda campaign, also called GIMAC. She is the chair for the COVID-19 Frontline Responders Group for the Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe. Dr. Gumsavanda had received many awards for her work on women's and children's rights, as well as peace and security. Welcome, Dr. Narazai Gumsavanda. And I know it's really not a good time for you in your country. Now, I think it's 4 o'clock in the early morning, but we really appreciate to invite you join us. And Narazai is going to talk. The title of Narazai's presentation is Transcending Cultural Barriers for Economic and Social Empowerment of Middle-Aged and Older Women. The floor is yours, Narazai.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Bingley, for the generous introduction. And it's such a pleasure to really be part of your event as CSW, and for having chosen this very, very important topic. I also want to congratulate my panelists, my co-panelists today, And Commissioner Chang, that was a very powerful presentation. Thank
Yes.
you very much for laying the ground for us. I'm looking forward to visiting the new Taipei city again, as I had visited the country a couple of times before at the invitation of Madam Ping Li. So thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to hearing from my sister, Francesca Chen. The topic for discussion today is so crucial. It's so crucial for us in the context of the Commission on the Status of Women, for which we are gathered. We know that most of the work that we do on women does not offer sufficient disaggregation by age. We do gender equality work that usually focuses on girls and young women and on women. It does not have a specific focus on middle-aged and older women, despite us having international commitments to the rights of persons, of older persons. I'm going to speak from the perspective, from my perspective, with Rosaria Memorial Trust, working in rural Zimbabwe. And this is a country, as many of us know, which is on the southern part of Africa. And I'm going to share our experience as an organization as we work with women living in rural areas, especially now in the context of COVID-19. We are a country that is so much rooted and grounded within our own culture. And therefore that shapes the work we do and shapes the situation of women within society. Just like many countries globally, Zimbabwe is a country that has ratified many conventions, many international and regional conventions, including the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It is also a country that is part of the Africa commitments, that is ratified Africa commitments on women's rights, such as the Maputo Protocol on women's rights. Women's social and economic security and empowerment is a critical dimension of these international treaties. At the domestic level, at the national level, Zimbabwe has a very progressive constitution, a constitution that enshrines the equality and rights of women in society. We also have a gender policy that also seeks to create opportunities for women and girls in a society which we know is mostly male-dominated. We also have other subsidiary legislation, for instance, that addresses violence against women, that addresses issues of education, like the Education Act, and that addresses other issues such as disability. However, in many of these laws that exist in the country, there is no special attention given to the reality and the situation of middle-aged and older women. All women are just treated as women in a general sense. Therefore, the focus that we have today is very important around really zeroing in and giving attention to the situation of middle-aged and older women. Culturally and socially, we know that the situation, that the empowerment of women when they become old is so much informed by the experience they have when they are girls and young women. It's intergenerational in character. Therefore, the integration of women within the labor market, their skills they have, the opportunities they have are determined by the extent to which there is investment in them as younger, at a much younger age. In my country and in my community, we still find disparities in education and in training. Whilst the Education Act provides for equality of opportunity in education, we realize that girls and young women drop out of school due to many factors, including child marriage and poverty. It therefore means that when these women become middle-aged and older women, they have less access and opportunity to employment compared to men, because they would have lost that opportunity when they were much younger and when they were of school-going age. Secondly, we also realize that women, girls and young women experience teenage pregnancy, they experience child marriage. It therefore means when they are middle-aged and older women, they have a much higher care responsibility for children, because they also become grandmothers when they are still very young. And in a context like Zimbabwe, where we have limited child care support, we've had our experience with HIV, it means the care responsibilities, just as Commissioner Chang had said, the major share of care responsibilities within our society lies with middle-aged and older women. Our grandmothers are almost recalled from retirement in order to come and care for the grandchildren, and in the context of HIV, because we have home-based care. We have high levels of unemployment, and therefore, as a rural community, most of our work is based on the rural economy, and the rural economy is grounded on agriculture. And within the agriculture sector, we know and you've experienced that as an organization, women have limited access to and ownership of the critical asset that is land. The lack of and the cultural barriers related to women's ownership and title to land is so fundamental. And it is so fundamental because it is at the heart of women's economic security, women's social empowerment, and women's economic empowerment. Land rights, except for those who can buy land in urban areas, but in rural communities, land is provided according to tradition. And traditionally, land is transferred to the male head of the household. It means many women do not have land in their own rights, and many middle-aged and older women who then become widows are even double prejudiced because of the limitations they have on access to land. And when you do not have access and ownership of land, it's also very difficult for you to access the necessary credit and inputs that is necessary and that is critical for you to be able to go into productive, competitive agriculture. You remain in a very subsistence environment. Therefore, many women do subsistence rural agriculture because culturally they are excluded from ownership of land that I have talked about. Therefore, as an organization, as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we were founded in honor of my late mother, Mbuya Rosaria, who was an older woman when she passed on in 2006. And I had served within the World YWCA and visited my sister Ping Li, and I saw the amazing programs in Taiwan that were also focusing on older women. And I was inspired to therefore make sure that my work within Rosaria Memorial Trust would also have a component of dealing and supporting older women to have economic empowerment. Therefore, as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we have 4 main programs that work with women. The first is to create a platform, an opportunity at our center where the older women come for social empowerment, for information, for skills building, and they've created their initiative called Zepfunde, which is more a solidarity among themselves. And through this Zepfunde initiative and with women, with the older women, they come together not as vulnerable women, but as women who are knowledgeable about their traditions, knowledgeable about indigenous agriculture, knowledgeable about how to raise families. They come to give each other support, but also to support the young women. Secondly, as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we support the older women, the middle-aged and older women through Zepfunde, for them to increase their income and their livelihoods, and to have an informal space within which they can gainfully be generating income. And the activities we do there with them is an agribusiness and agriculture-oriented project and program where we grow crops together with them and support them, and they use the income that they generate for their own basic needs in their own families, but also they use the crop for feeding their families. This is very, very important, that for us working in rural areas, when we talk about creating employment, we are talking about creating possibilities for the women to gain a livelihood and for them to gain an income and for them to have food security. Thirdly, as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we support the women to be able to address the issues of violence against women. We cannot transcend the cultural and social barriers of women, and for them to be able to have opportunities, economic or employment opportunities, if they continue to live in violence. And at times, the violence of older women is not talked about, it's not explored. They face issues such as even stigma, just being stigmatized, just being ostracized. Therefore, us as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we are a place where the women can come for information, they can come for psychosocial support services in order for them to wake up tomorrow with confidence, to go about their lives and to rebuild the opportunities. The last intervention that we have, which is a strong intervention for us, is the policy advocacy work. It's very important. And I'm so happy to have Commissioner Chang with us and to hear the work which they're doing as a city. It's very important for us to invest in advocacy work. Advocacy that makes sure that the experiences of women in their communities informs policy. The policy work could be the social welfare policy approaches, it could be the economic policy, it could be the financial policy. And therefore, as Rosaria Memorial Trust, we were very much involved with other organizations. And I'm very excited that we now have the Zimbabwe Women's Development, the Women's Development Fund. This is a fund which is run by government and which offers small loans and grants and training to support women to be more involved in the economic sector, to be more involved in entrepreneurship. Therefore, the advocacy that is done, that we did, was very important in building a capacity for the women to be supported. And it is crucial for us to continue to expand these opportunities across the country, but also in many other countries. As we today look at the theme of the Commission on the Status of Women, I want to conclude my recommendations with some key recommendations that the outcome document of the Commission on the Status of Women must also have a very clear perspective of women in their diversities, including middle-aged and older women, and not a generalized perspective of just on women. Therefore, the notion of all women in their diversities is a very important notion within the international treaties and norms. Secondly, that we continue to address opportunities in which we address the cultural barriers that are so much linked to issues of environment and climate in order to create opportunities and secure the rights of women. And lastly, that community initiatives and local groups, women's organizations that are working with middle-aged and older women within our communities must be resourced. They must be supported because they are in daily contact and they support daily the women that are trying to rebuild their livelihoods, are trying to get back into the employment. And lastly, that care work is so important, but care work must be resourced. Middle-aged and older women should not be expected to carry the primary responsibility of care work because they also need to be involved in their own ways and without necessarily having the pressure. It is public responsibility to provide care work. And therefore, this is an important area of investment. I'm looking forward to our discussions together, and I'm looking forward to sharing perspective. We cannot transform our societies unless we also transform our cultures, our traditions, for them to be gender sensitive, to be responsive, and to secure the empowerment of women and of all ages. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for the time. I appreciate.
Thank you, Dr. Narasai. Narasai is human rights lawyer. So in the very beginning, she mentioned about the some very critical international law and convention. I think this law and convention will be very important for us to support the middle-aged women. And Narasai also from the women's life cycle to talk about the social issues. What's the middle-aged women will meet, like the violence against women, their education, disabled women, what they need, and so on. And Dr. Narasai also suggests how to create the job opportunities for middle-aged women. And she mentioned particularly about the international cooperation and the Women's Angels Corporation work together. Narasai introduced one program, Zimboda, and maybe we can talk more about this later. Thank you very much, Dr. Narasai. And then we still have the other one speaker, Yigu. Hello, Yigu.
Hello.
Francisca Yigu. Yeah, you are here. Okay. Yigu is the young woman of our YWCA movement. And here I would like to introduce her first. She is benefited from enlightening interactions with a number of mentors in YWCA. Actually, she is growing up in YWCA movement. Ms. Francisca Yigu Chen has worked at the Foundation for Women's Rights Promotion and Development since early 2011. She is a coordinator and a trainer on gender equality and women's issues in private and public sectors, such as gender mainstreaming, CEDAW, economic empowerment, and labor force participation, as well as a researcher on issues related to APEC policy partnership on women and the economic. So Yigu Francisca, she is an APEC expert. So today we are very pleased to invite Francisca to be here and share with us about her experience from the APEC. Her theme for this morning, she delivered the message is Insights from APEC, Capturing Opportunities from Middle-Aged and Senior Women in the Digital Era. Yes, now it's your floor, Francisca.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, President Lee. Let me first of all, thank you for your kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from around the world. I'm privileged to be with you. It's also my great honor to participate in this meaningful session, have a productive time with experts and leaders on such an important issue as women's economic empowerment. My topic is Insights from APEC, Capturing Opportunities for Middle-Aged and Senior Women in the Digital Era. Women's economic empowerment has gained increasing attention within the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in recent years. More and more people would agree that women not only have the right to achieve their full economic potential, ensuring they do so is essential to innovation, productivity, and inclusive growth. However, much progress remains to be made. The specific experience of middle-aged and senior women often remain underexplored and unrecognized, leaving them invisible to policymakers. So I would like to explore current opportunities and challenges to the economic empowerment of middle-aged and senior women based on the emerging lessons and advice from APEC for how we could overcome a range of common barriers. And I would divide my talk into several parts. The first part deals with why this issue is important. The second part concerns existing obstacles or misconceptions. The third part relates to some findings from APEC, and the last part is the recommendations. What is the big picture? To begin with, here are some facts for your reference. According to research by the United Nations Population Fund, the number of older people in the Asia-Pacific region is rising at an unprecedented rate, and it's at the forefront of the global phenomenon of population aging. By 2050, 1 in 4 people in Asia and the Pacific will be over 60 years old. The population of older persons in Asia and the Pacific region will reach close to 1.3 billion people. Women constitute about 53% of the population aged 60 or older in the region, and their share rises to 60% above age 80. While increasing longevity is a positive outcome of social, economic, and technological development, and the rapid pace of aging has profound and far-reaching social, economic, and political implications. Many older persons must grapple with income insecurity due to a lack of social protection and accumulated assets. Sadly, middle-aged and senior women are more vulnerable to poverty due to a combination of relative disadvantages throughout their lives. The mentioned situation would be even worse. And this brings me to the second point, reskilling and upskilling. The fourth industrial revolution is raising challenges for the future of work as digitalization, automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence generated opportunities for the economic and social and society. At the same time, the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 crisis have accelerated the demand for skills that match the structural shifts in labor market. The lower income workers, in particular, the vulnerable groups who are ill-prepared to participate in a digital environment, have been hit the hardest by the COVID-19 pandemic. They tend to work in the informal sectors that is known for their low productivity and high exposure to health and safety risks, poor access to training, as well as lack of income security and lack of access to benefits from employment recovery. As vulnerable populations are more likely to be excluded from the digital economy and therefore from the workforce, digital literacy approaches should specifically address their needs. Furthermore, lifelong gender discriminations leaves women even more disadvantaged in an aging society. The trend of rapid demographic shifts has been altering Asia Pacific, and it should be grounded in an awareness of gender equality and human rights. What is the obstacle? As we mentioned, middle-aged and senior women generally experience bigger obstacles, such as people would feel middle-aged and senior women are less productive, they are quick to leave or retire. Training them is not cost-effective, or they are less receptive to training. For decades, many factors which underlie gender segregated occupations, including stereotyping women's capabilities and skills, the types of jobs that are available on a part-time basis, and the broad range of factors which influence the career choices at the start of their lives. Although job segregation restricts choices for women, the jobs that are most likely to be done by women are also those associated with low pay and limited possibilities. It makes middle-aged and senior women more likely to be at risk of poverty, especially entrenching the inequality further. Developing an understanding of how gender, age, and skills are related will help people to think about the best way to avoid making inequalities worse and to identify steps to narrow gaps. Besides, middle-aged and senior women often struggle to access training opportunities. And this is also one of the factors which makes it difficult to progress out of low-paid work. Their reticence may lead the societies to view them as less relative to the market and focus on serving other people. If middle-aged and senior women fail to reskill, upskill, or fail to make the transformational change, they are likely to be mired in the past while others move away. Or worse yet, they face the uncertainty and conflicts of self-doubt. Therefore, people should make a shift in their mindset and strategies. In other words, middle-aged and senior women are not threats. They would be non-traditional talents with untapped potential. With fast-changing technologies providing them with reskilling and upskilling pathways toward new employment should be set immediately. What is non-traditional talents? Let me give you more clarification. Non-traditional talents are people who may not meet traditional job requirements when it comes to education and experience. They may have backgrounds in other fields, be career changers, or are returning to the workforce after some time away. They may also be self-taught, having picked up job skills through their daily experience. From my perspective, when we talk about digital skills, we are not talking about coding or the individual skills needed to do science, mathematics, or engineering. More specifically, middle-aged and senior women could be benefited based on the digital literacy and some of the essential skills such as problem solving to work productively and propose appropriate solutions, or creative to offer opportunities for deeper learning through multiple approaches, or critical thinking to analyze the information and synthesize new ideas, or collaboration to work as a productive part of a collaborative team, and so on. So what is the lesson learned from APEC? Now, I would like to introduce some lessons learned from APEC based on women's economic empowerment and human resources development. In 2011, APEC leaders encouraged member economies to take holistic and concrete actions to realize the full potential of women. APEC's work has focused on the integration and the empowerment of women by enhancing their access to capital, access to markets, skills and capacity building, leadership, and access to innovation technology. However, women of diverse backgrounds continue to face multiple disproportional to be barrier to economic empowerment. So the La Serena Roadmap for Women and Inclusive Growth was developed by the Policy Partnership on the Women and the Economy Working Group in 2019. Through the roadmap, middle-aged and senior women could also be benefited and avoiding discrimination. It's identified some key actions areas as follows. One, empowering women through accessing to capital and markets, including providing capacity building activities for networking, mentoring, and digital skills building, among other core skills and soft skills to increase women's business competencies and encourage their participation in the digital economy. Or you can see strengthening women's labor force participation. Several actions could be taken, such as supporting inclusive policies and flexible working conditions and choices that enable women to keep advancing in the workforce, promoting the transition of women from the informal to the formal economy, developing strategies to recognize and measure their unpaid work, and responding to gender-based violence or discrimination in the workplace. Another crucial part would be addressing health-related barriers specific to women in the workforce, such as improving workplace protections, health, and safety, as well as increasing health access and awareness. As you can see, improving access of women to leadership positions in all levels of decision-making and enabling an environment that actively supports gender equality and women's empowerment. Supports women's education, training, and skills development and access in a changing world of work, such as providing lifelong learning through training, upscaling and reskilling to boost women's economic empowerment, or bridging the digital gender divide. Last but not least, advancing women's economic empowerment through data collection and analysis That means strengthening statistical capacity to better produce, collect, and analyze and disseminate sex-disaggregated statistics, whether you are from public or private sectors. In addition, the Human Resources Development Working Group has the responsibility to help build cultural awareness and promote gender equality in its work plan. The mission of the Human Resources Development Working Group is sharing knowledge, experience, and skills to strengthen human resources development and promote sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Therefore, the essential ingredients in capacity building is transformation that is generated and sustained over time from within, the kind that goes beyond performing tasks to changing mindset and attitude. Furthermore, at the regional level, public sectors are encouraged to explore options that support the development of adequate social protection policies in the changing world of work to ensure that social protection coverage for workers reflects diverse forms of employment and promotes access to social protection for women, the elderly, workers, works in the informal economy and in the sharing economy. So what is the next steps? Gender bias will intersecting inequalities are hidden in existing systems that would make middle-aged and senior women experience a range of multiple challenges relating to accessing decent work, care responsibilities, lack of updated skills, among others. To address the challenges and seize the opportunities of middle-aged and senior women, let me conclude by developing a comprehensive view of this issue. Generally speaking, supporting middle-aged and senior women may have three aspects. One, making changes in self-confidence and mindset. Networking and sharing are crucial parts of these aspects, since economic value creation is increasingly based on the use of ever higher levels of specialized skills and knowledge. The first step of middle-aged and senior women would be to understand how to interact with others through digital technologies and get a sense of achievements in a safe and supportive way. Two, making changes in awareness, knowledge, and skills. The practical way would be to increase the capabilities of middle-aged and senior women, and then they could act as able citizens and productive workers. New approaches to capacity building is needed based on repositioning. An important component of capacity building is dialogue. That is strengthening reflective practice, supporting one another, generating new ideas, enabling women to broaden their career path or participate in the digital economy. Three, making changes in relationships. That means advancements of women to visible leadership and decision-making roles in the digital era through creating a common language of discussion among potentially disparate parties. Curation would be a good approach to provide extra value to people while highlighting your own expertise. As a content curator, women could have fun online through sharing their public with their insights and inspirational wisdom, or enhancing the public dialogue on digital innovation. In closing, I would like to thank President Lee once again for this opportunity of sharing some viewpoints on this complex issue. And I would appreciate some more opinions or comments from the experts. So I will end now and hand it over back to President Lee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francisca. And you give us a big question. What is the next step? I think the answer is making changes. Thank you very much for your wonderful, your valuable and very important information from APAC. And now we still have 10 minutes. It should be the Q&A time. Any questions from the floor? If we cannot have the other questions, I would like to raise some questions to our very knowledgeable and experienced panelists. The first one question, Commissioner Zhang, I think people will be very interested in your presentation because you talk about women's employment and you introduce the training on home plumbing and electricity skills in your presentation. Can you introduce more details? What is the plumbing and electricity skills and what's the spatial meaning? Because after your program, lots of the other cities also follow your program, and it's a very popular program for the women. So would you like to take some minutes to introduce again? Thank you.
好的哈，那我就用中文来讲哈。其实我想，中华民国台湾已经是一个性别进展非常快速的国家了哈。但是不可讳言的是，我们仍然有一些性别刻板印象跟性别分工比较明显的部分。像水电工呢，我想就是一个非常明显的例子。因此呢，我们新北市就在想，我们有没有办法翻转这样的一个现象呢？所以我们就到街头去做访问哈，就发现呢，其实很多的妇女也想改变这样的一个现状。所以我们就开始做了很多的培训班，而且也不是只有这个水电工班，包含我们这个还有木匠班，因为木匠也是一个男性基本上比较多的例子哈。那甚至我们刚才有跟大家报告的我们的导览员，那导览员过去呢，其实也是男性主导的一个性别分工的一个现象。因此我们为了要打破这样的一个现象呢，改变所谓的刻板印象，所以我们就做了一些这样的努力。那也没有想到，其实获得了非常好的回响。所以我想未来我们还是会继续的，在我们所谓的性别分工、性别刻板印象里边比较明显的部分呢，再来做尝试跟努力。
Okay, and I still have the second question is in your slides. You share of both male and female trainees actually employed as a child care. Previous were both around 18%. There seems to have space for improvement. Are you there any specific improvement strategies being devised in this regard?
谢谢主持人提出这样的一个很好的问题哈。其实这个比例18%确实蛮低的，所以当时我们也去了解，为什么这个比例特别低呢？后来就发现呢，原来呢，我们其实有很多报名参加这样一个居家托育人员训练的朋友们，他并不想要就业，他其实是想要在家里呢学习更多的技能，然后把他家里的孩子带好，或者把他亲戚的孩子带好。那其实我们发现呢，这样其实也没有什么关系。为什么？因为毕竟这个政府部门所办的训练，有的是免费的，有的是只要缴小额的费用。不过我想未来呢，我们在提升这个比例上面，我们可能会把这样的分开。换句话说呢，有意愿就业的这个部分，我们一定要想办法来保障他。譬如说，刚才我们特别讲的很弱势的妇女，比如说家暴的妇女，或者是这种女性的街友。他们可能非常需要有一份工作来支撑他们的生活。那么对于这样的女性呢，我想未来呢，我们一定会在就业培育的过程里面强化他们的训练，让他们的表现能够更好，然后呢，跟所谓的就业部门呢做更好的连接，让他们能够就业成功，并且可以稳定就业。我想未来的我们的这个策略会把它分开，就是有意愿就业的跟没有意愿就业的，以及一定想就业成功的。 我们一定要拿出更多实质的支持，跟就业部门做更好的连接，让他们能够顺利就业、稳定就业。
Okay, Commissioner Zhang, there is a question from the floor. So one participant asked you about the middle-aged and senior women. Do you have some special program how to keep the senior women and middle-aged women in the workplace? And the second question is, do you have the ambassador violence against women to promote the violence against women? That's the participant. I think she is the leader of one women's organization from the new Taipei city.
是。那反暴力这个宣导大使呢，这个工作呢，其实我们是跟很多的社团或者是在地的社区发展协会呢做了一些连结。那这个部分呢是比较没有就业的部分。不过我想这位朋友他提出的问题，我觉得很好，未来我们也可以再思考一下。本来当初的初衷是因为我们家庭暴力反家庭暴力一定要深耕在社区，所以我们就鼓励我们的社区的一些组织一起来带头呢，来宣导这样一个反家庭暴力。所以这个工作呢，其实我们的
starts out in communities. So we work with local communities and associations who have already been doing a very good job. In the future, whether they can help us, whether they can become the so-called mobile instructors, I think we can think about this. If they are the mobile instructors, then they can receive a $800 NT hourly salary. So this is also the income from a typical employment program. So we can think about whether we can connect the so-called anti-domestic violence ambassador to our other programs. And in addition, you ask about other employment programs for middle-aged to senior programs. Actually, there are a lot. Due to time constraint, I can only share a few with you today. However, I think all those programs are similar in nature. Training is important. Training is crucial to empowering these women in the workplace. And before the training, we of course will conduct some research. We want to know which area, which type of training is appealing to women. So we will continue to work with the Department of Industrial Development and other departments in order to find out how we can further help these women.
Thank you very much for Commissioner Zhang and your wonderful explanation for these two programs. And next, I would like to move to Narazai Gumsvanda. And people want to ask you what the gender basis embedded in cultural, the limit opportunities for middle-aged and older women. Would you like to answer this for the friends?
Thank you so much. The embedded cultural and gender biases that limit opportunities is one. The perception that in my society, older women should not be in formal employment. Older women should be taken care of and should be based at home. So that's a major bias and barrier in the mindset of people, because it limits opportunity for prioritizing older women for employment. The second major cultural barrier relates to ownership of assets. And within the ownership of assets is also the perception that older women must be taken care of, and therefore they do not necessarily need to own. And it's a real issue that affects especially older women who are widowed, because then at times they can be dispossessed of the assets that they need. And the last is lack of access to technology. I really appreciated the presentation made by Francesca Chen around technology. The focus is as if technology is for the younger generation and not for the middle-aged and older women. And yet, with COVID-19, everything is done virtually, jobs are moving online, and yet many of the middle-aged and older women do not have the skills or the opportunities or the facilities for them to competitively reskill or upskill, then for them to be involved in the competitive labor market. So these are some of the issues that we are dealing with. And again, President Lee, thank you so much for having me on this very, very important panel.
Thank you so much. And Igu Francisca, may I ask you one question in terms of gender issues? As a big picture thinker, what can be done to reduce the digital gap, especially for elderly women? Francisca, yes.
Yes. Okay, we must first create a friendly and comfortable environment for middle-aged and senior women, help them break down stereotypes around technology and stop thinking it's too difficult or they are too old to learn new things. Some institutions provide trainings programs for the elderly so they can learn these digital skills. Also, we must remind ourselves that the elderly didn't grow up with a lot of things that we take for granted. So we should be more patient with them when it comes to new technology. Let me take YouTube, for instance. To my knowledge, a grandma who went viral by cooking everyday dishes. And those are something she has probably been doing for decades. But with the support of digital technology, she would be able to monetize her skills. Therefore, I hope that more middle-aged and senior women can utilize digital technology to join the workforce and create better opportunities for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And because the time is run out, and finally, may I have the privilege to ask three speakers to give the comments on just 1 minute, one sentence on our theme, empowering middle-aged and older women to enter the re-employment market. It's not easy work for how to encourage the middle-aged and older women to enter the market, manpower market. But I think today, lots of the workers and experts also in this event. We just want to ask the Commissioner Zhang and two advocates.
Yes, I think the world is changing very fast. So as women, we need to keep learning and try to break gender stereotypes, engage international networking, and tap into opportunities in the workplace. Of course, to make changes, the government plays a critical role in this space. So we'll definitely make every effort to adopt effective strategies to help women embrace new changes in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Narazai? Hello. Or Francisca, you first. Dr. Narazai?
Yes, we must, thank you so much. We must change attitudes in our communities and transform the culture that embeds a bias, gender-based bias, in order to create opportunity for middle-aged and older women to re-enter the employment market and address the cultural issues that might limit but also the potential that exists. And lastly, it's very important to support local organizations and women's groups that work with middle-aged and older women. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we move to Francisca. 1 minute. Francisca? Hello. It seems we cannot hear from the Francisca, and I take the last few minutes to make the summary and also myself opinion as following. The first is strengthen the provision of adult education, just like the speakers mentioned. And the second is create a re-employment market, encourage middle-aged and elderly women to enter the job market, and provide public care services to enhance their job stability. The third is implement measures to prohibit age discrimination. I think Dr. Narazai talked about the discrimination, and according to the CEDAW, strengthen vocational training and technical education for middle-aged and elderly women to empower them to enter the labor market. I think lots of things we should pay attention to. And today, thank you very much for our panelists, wonderful speakers. Your presentation is so helpful for us. And also thank you for the participants you are joining. And before we close this session, can we ask all the people you opened your yeah, let's take a picture, a group picture together. And let's have a big group picture. And the smiling. Alma, it's okay. I think we're still lots of people here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And 下一场. And we still have the next forum. It will be held on Thursday. So you can see the poster here, Women's Empowerment in Environmental Disaster Reduction. And it will be on Thursday evening, 8:00 p.m. in Taipei time. Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation and the support. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
谢谢局长。
Thank you.
先按离开就好了。